Travis Wayne Goodsill. I'm now saving the video on Freemasonry webs of deception. It was my intention to include Book of Mormon coding for you and some other fun stuff, but that was already up to 26 minutes. But yeah, I was going to include stuff like Hiram being spelled differently in the courts, as even church historians don't recognize Hiram Smith having been arrested among other Mormons in 1838 because it's spelled differently than the way Mormons all know it. It was his original birth spelling, which was Freemason, Hiram Abiff. And the anti-Mason movement forced everyone with that spelling of Hiram to change it. You know, sort of like banning the names of Hitler and Adolf. They became names of hatred. And the temples, that's what the Freemasons called their lodges, were temples, until the anti-Mason movement. Then they changed to calling them cultural halls, which is what the Mormons called their gyms in the chapels. And people thought, oh, it's for culture. No, it's Freemason. But yeah, the Book of Mormon talks about this in the New Jerusalem, as Nephi and Lehi, they leave Old Jerusalem, come to the promised land of the New Jerusalem, and build the Temple of Solomon. They say Temple of Solomon, but it doesn't have gold and silver because those weren't abundant in the land. And then you read on and wait a minute, they are now saying that there's an abundance of gold and silver. It's because it's coded. It's not because they're not getting their story straight. And so, yeah, Nephi talking about writing in Egyptian and having Paleo-Hebrew with it. All comes from the Knights Templar that I talked about in this video. And buried plates from the caves in southern Illinois, which is called Little Egypt. So, now, this one, however, this video is going to go over what the lawyers will have to do now. They've served their papers today. They will get and got. People enjoyed my Mormons Enjoy Final Sunday. Up to 148 views so far with 4 likes. The anti-Mormons haven't shown up yet. Which is strange, calling Mormons anti-Mormons. But, interesting. I won't do a comment video here, so I'll just... Oh, wait a minute, we need to make the screen large. Now we can sign out, so that no Russian hackers break into my YouTube account and start messing around with it, making it popular. Gotta keep it suppressed. That's what the church has been doing, though, with my lawsuit and with the crimes they've committed against me and myself. They disappeared me They don't want my existence to be known to anybody because I'm a translator. In 1998, I went to the church saying, hey, I deciphered Paleo-Hebrew, which the church then blacklisted me for. Instead of keeping their enemies closer or trying to turn me to the dark side of the force, they instead blacklisted me as a troublemaker. A translator is a troublemaker. And when I was silenced by the government trying to get my kids back, I sent a petition, and in that petition, I again exposed myself as a translator, correcting gospel errors such as charity and faith and repentance, the basics that have been messed up in the church. And also put in my latest discovery that the pictograms of the spelling of Zeus and Yah are exactly the same. It's the same God. And then you say, well, no, because Zeus is different than Yah. Duh. Just like Zeus is different than Jupiter. Each culture creates new stories for their god, but in origin, they are the same. And so yeah, they disappeared me. And in disappearing me, they made a mistake of releasing me, because by being released, I now can file this lawsuit, especially since that the person who was responsible for disappearing me was getting paid by the church for having disappeared me. So, oops, they did not want me released. And I got released, I found out of the payments, and yeah, the church is toast. They have no argument because the case itself is against the church. The 2008 case against the church. It's in the public record, even though they sealed the documents. But the federal judges will be able to see it as I will have it released to them. I've got my discovery copy. So, if the church wants to keep it a secret, they cannot plead guilty. They cannot say, we're going to take you to trial, Travis. They can't do either of those. Because if they plead guilty, they can cover it up. I won't be able to release all the evidence. But they have to admit guilt. So they can't admit guilt. But if they try to take it to court and say, oh, we're innocent, I then get to present the evidence. And they'll get to see the evidence. And that's typically how things go, is that a person thinks they're innocent, and they want to see what the prosecution has on them first before they make a final decision as to what they're going to plead. And the church already knows because they're the ones who created the documents in the first place. And so they're not going to want to find out what evidence I have because they already know it. They created the evidence. And so I'd be very surprised, but I was surprised about the judge being in violation of her own court and the rules of the United States. Yeah, I don't see the church pursuing a trial. Most of these situations would require a mediator, a mediating judge for a settlement discussion, where I say, okay, fine, I'll settle for a measly couple $1,000s as I sign this NDA, and will no longer be an LDS critic. As you know, that will not happen. I will not allow that. And so my request for relief is my request for relief. I didn't want to put my request for relief. I just wanted the church stopped, ended, over, to punish and hurt no one ever again. That's the only acceptable settlement. And they can't just pay me off, because Mormons are going to be pissed. All Mormons will see me and go, how did you get rich? Oh, I sued the church and won. You stole my tithing. See what I mean? And so the church has to end, because they'll continue committing crimes. They'll continue to do the protection racket of tithing and other pyramid schemes for missionary recruitment, because we pay to go on missions, but the new recruits that we bring into the church pay the church in tithing. We don't get the tithing. So that's different than a pyramid scheme where we get a small portion, but so does the boss up the pyramid chain of command. So there's differences, but it's a racket. It's a criminal racket. And so other options are the insanity and mental illness claims. But that really doesn't apply to corporations. The whole articles of incorporation sort of null and voids those arguments in the courts. If they were an individual, maybe. You know, Nelson is getting old. But, okay, let's exit this. LDS Mormon Church tangles Freemason web of deception. Yes, we want to save. LDS Mormon Church. Oh, goodness. Tangles Freemason web of deception. There it is. I need to remember to put Carly Simon's New Jerusalem for this video, the Tangled Web of Deception. When you watch the video, you'll understand why. New Jerusalem, I'll write it down. New Jeru Carly Simon. Beautiful song, too. And so the only other option was one that I was talking about earlier when I had refiled my complaint with the courts, is that the church would have to plead no contest, because that way they are able to say, we are not admitting that we are guilty. But we're not going to fight the case. So you're guilty. No, we're just not going to fight it. So you're guilty. I don't know why they have it. Nevertheless, and notwithstanding, that's what I am expecting. Other than that, they may try to settle in private try to avoid it going to the courts because they see my request for relief. That I'm not going to do no settlement and mediation. They're not going to get away with this anymore. They may do it to the woman who got raped by her mission president in the MTC. They may have gotten away with it with the Boy Scouts. They may have gotten away with it with others. But this, no, they can't get away with this. This cuts right to the core of the corruption of the church. That they were willing to disappear one of their own who was faithful and devoted and have him disappeared, all because he pursued translation, which is what their organization promotes in the members in the first place. And then they paid off the person who disappeared him. I mean, that's huge. That's not, some bishop or scout leader of the church or primary president who rapes a kid and the church has to cover for them by paying off the victims. No, this is the church. They gave the orders. They don't act, or people don't act without the church's permission. Everything done in the church is done by the board members, all 15. Nelson was a part of it back in 2008. And so Monson was a part of it, as well as Nelson, and all those who were involved in 2008. So the newer guys, sorry you got sucked into it, but you should have known it was a snake when you picked it up and tried to carry it across the river. And so that's how the church is implicated here. They're paying this person who disappeared me in the case where they were filing against me using the state. Because as a victim, people get the First Amendment right of prosecution on their behalf against the accused. I've been denied that, but the church hasn't. And so in 2008, in the state of Utah, all Mormons prosecuted me on behalf of the church, and they refused to prosecute. They weren't going to take it to trial. They didn't want it going public. They had it sealed. They accused me of false crimes. And serious enough so that they could disappear me permanently. And so, yeah, the lawyers are going to be stuck. They'll have to get Nelson and the board to tell them what they want done. And it's not good for the church, because the lawsuit itself back in 2008 is the evidence against them. Everything else I put in there, that's just icing because of what they did to me. So that's the great part about catching somebody in the act of a crime, is because you can throw the book at them. And I even say in my lawsuit, there's more I could have added. And there is, as I was going over it, reading it to you guys in the 2.5 hours, I think it ended up being, almost 3. And so, the church is over. That's what it is. So I'm predicting either they plead no contest and hope the judge will be merciful and allow the church to continue, and then I just get like maybe $100,000 from damages. They can't do that. That's not going to suffice. What was done to me was an act of treason. There are capital crimes that I threw in as icing. Plus, what they did to me with this 2008 case was a capital crime in and of itself. So I'm leaning more to the church privately reaching out to me to bypass the courts, to then go to the judge and say, Travis and the defense has come to a settlement agreement. And then the judge will see my signature. But this settlement, like I said in my request for relief, they either have to hand over the keys or they sell everything the church has as assets and liquidate it into a check or direct deposit, whatever. Nothing else is good enough. The church has to end. That's the only way I will get justice in this case, because they committed capital crimes. Capital punishment is supposed to be given, but this is not a criminal case. It's a civil case because no prosecutor in Utah wants to take the case because they're all compromised by the church. So, yes. The main law in warfare in Sun Tzu is that you don't start a war unless you know you've won already. You know in advance you've won. And once you know you've won, you can then proceed in the war. It seems kind of strange until you experience examples of it in your own life. So yes, when the church arrested me in 2008 and had me disappeared, I won. It was checkmate. They exposed their king. They gave me the game. So, and you're not supposed to do that in chess, because if you make a move that puts your king in checkmate, you can't do that move. You have to find another move. And if you can't do another move, then the game's over because there is no move for you to make. Easy and I got to play a number of games of chess while I was locked up in Supermax. Curtis Allgaier was too far away to play with him, but he was playing with some of the other guys. And then Brian David Mitchell, he just kept to himself. See, that's the kind of people they put me with. All because I was a translator. So, I don't allow my phone to be turned on. I tried contacting Social Security one day, and it was a 45-minute wait. So I said, okay, call me back on the automatic voice thing. And had to have my phone on. And while having my phone on, my phone just was constantly flooded with advertisers from all over the world, all over the United States. And I was like, oh my hell. And the 45 minutes came and went. I tried checking to see if one of the calls that I was declining was them. No. And so when they called back, they had a busy signal, couldn't get through. And so I can't use my phone. My phone is worthless now. It's useless because of all this that's going on. Even with the GPS turned off, there's still some kind of way they know. As I had problems talking with my ex last night. They have to email me or write a letter. But they're going to need to get the full 15's approval. And they don't meet until Thursday at 10 a.m. Used to be at the top of the upper floor of the Salt Lake Temple, in that meeting area there. But not an option anymore now that they have been doing demolition and stuff. So I'm sure they meet somewhere else. I don't know if they're able to meet in the administration building, but maybe they meet in the lawyers' offices. It's just right across the street. So we'll find out. But that's what I'm predicting, is that the lawyers reach out to me in private to say, we want to come up with some kind of a settlement without the court, because they don't want this going public. But of course, as you can tell, I'm going to make it public regardless of whether they don't want it public. I will not be signing an NDA. Screw them. They're constantly committing crimes against others. So, no, I will not be silent. So, that's my prediction. So we shall see. See, Mormons who don't understand this are thinking, no, man, the church is going to fight it, man, and they're going to prove you wrong. Guys, they were the ones who created the evidence. So, yeah. I mean, they have no case. They're toast. Because I don't go into a battle unless I know I will win. That's why I go on other people's sites to help uplift the critics, try to guide them in the right direction to do research, further research. But then you've got the Mormons who troll their video channels or YouTube channels, and they think they can shut me down. Where are you, David? I miss you. And so, yeah, and then Russians, they know better. They've given up a long time ago. The Russians know that all they can do is put thumbs down and try to throw in fake compliments from fake troll things. So I already know all this. So yeah, all of the trolling things that I've been catching lately have been gone straight to spam. And don't flatter me. You lose. And expose yourself if you come on saying, oh wow, that was great video, man. You want to be a YouTube friend? No, spam. So understand, Mormons, when I was saying that was your last Sunday, it may not be, because they have until the 30th of March. But technically, church is over. Somebody was talking about it. Yes, Blacklist. That's where I got it from. I'm still trying to finish up and catch up to Blacklist. And Daniel Jackson, Raymond Reddington, was talking to somebody about, sarcastically, about how the ship is sinking and the mute orchestra is playing that final song from Titanic. So yes, the church has hit the iceberg. They're sinking. Oh, right, I haven't uploaded it yet. I was thinking, oh man, I missed the Carly Simon song on the other video. So, yeah, we'll put that Titanic orchestra song performance on this video. Let me write a note, make sure I remember. Titanic song. Okay.